This video is brought to you by 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗡.
Hi guys, I'm Bea.
And I'm Paul.
And this is Everything is 𝗏𝗏. So for those of you who don't know us, we are Filipinos who moved to Spain on a non-lucrative visa, and we have a few videos talking about the non-lucrative visa, which is a residency visa which allows you to live in Spain for initially a year, and then you can renew it 2 more times and then get permanent residency. Or in our case, we got the shorter route and became Spanish citizens. So we'll list those videos here, but interestingly enough about this visa is that you cannot work in Spain, but that does not necessarily mean that you cannot have any income on this visa.
And we've been getting a lot of questions from people online about passive income while on an NLV, and of course,
what can they do to earn money?
We didn't really know how to answer it, so fortunately the guest today is talking about project development, and we think this will be super helpful for you guys.
Yeah, this is, I think, one way that you can earn income passively while living here in Valencia on a non-lucrative visa.
We talked about so many things, from investments and the forecasts, like how he feels about the real estate scene here in Valencia, comparing it to Barcelona and Madrid. And he also talked about potential projects in the future.
So we hope you enjoyed this video because it talks about what life in Valencia could look like, and also it answers some of the questions or things that have been making the headlines, like touristic apartments and tourism and OKUPAS and all of those heavy words that have been in the news for quite a while. So stay tuned.
Interview with 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗡 coming up right after the intro.
Hi guys, I'm Bea with Everything is 𝗏𝗏, and today Paul and I are with Ervin of 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, a property developer here in Valencia. 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 does projects around Valencia, and we're actually here at one of the properties that is for sale. So this is quite exciting for us. Thank you, Ervin, for inviting us.
Yeah, nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for those who are curious, can you please introduce yourself and a little bit about your company?
Yeah, so we are 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and we are developing properties here in Valencia and the surroundings of Valencia. And what we normally do is we try to create new houses or units from places that you couldn't even imagine how this was looking like before. We were talking about it, we will show you some photos afterwards, because this was a deserted place that nobody wanted, and we transformed it to do something like this.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like he was showing me pictures of it, and it was just empty, like huge, I guess like planta baja of nothing. There was nothing going on. It was just bare bones. And now look at it. It's so pretty and inviting. And yeah, it's just one of the few properties that we were able to visit. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah.
And it's always exciting to talk about like things that we can do in Valencia and see what, you know, like what are the things that you can do, for example, as someone on a non-lucrative visa here in Spain. So I was talking to you earlier about that visa where you are not allowed to work on that visa. You cannot be an employee, but you can obviously have, for example, a property. You can purchase property here in Spain and do with it what you wish. So it's nice to get the insight of a property developer and what it's like in Valencia.
Yeah. So a property for everyone coming to Spain, also for us. If, for example, I'm not living here for 10 years, but these properties are interesting because this is a property with a tourist license, right?
Okay.
So tourist license means that you can rent it out to whomever you want, but it actually means that you can rent it out per day.
Oh, I see. That's what the tourist license is. So it's not prohibitive to like a daily turnover.
That's it. Yeah. So tourist license, you have the capability to rent out properties from 1 day until how much days you want. But that's interesting because you can normally get a higher rate per day than you can get for other properties.
And this property is just one of many that are in a row here, right? How many properties were developed in this lot?
Yeah, so what we normally try to do, we try to buy in bulk, because the bigger you can buy, the more units you can create. Also, the more interesting you can make per unit to make it kind of make sense for the people that are then joining. So this has been a huge commercial ground floor. It was before, we've been looking at the photos, it was like a commercial office where they did mechanic stuff, and we created 5 apartments in a row. And it's also cool because also this project was shared within 5 different clients at the same time. So they saw the process from beginning until where we are now, and they created a group. Some are still maintaining the properties to rent it out, or some are selling, like for example this one.
I see, yeah. And is it easier than to build something when there's 5 going on at the same time? Will it be maybe more economical for someone who is interested in buying?
So yes, for us as a developer it made sense because we can do all the work at the same moment, and for the investor also, or for the client, it also makes sense because they step in a project that they don't need to do everything, all the work. That's also an interesting point. So they can make use of our experience for doing the project, but also the thing is that we help them in the process of doing it. So a lot of the clients that we have are international, and sometimes they don't speak the language.
Exactly. That's number one always.
That's an important one. But sometimes, and it's even if you talk the language, it's about the culture, understanding how Spain works. And you guys talk about that a lot in your channels. It's a culture, it's a country that is very attractive, very convenient to live. But you also need to understand they have rules and norms like every culture has. And a lot of people, like for example, international clients, sometimes don't understand it in the beginning. And we help them in the process. And that also applies to how to manage a project like this.
Yeah, that's actually very good, because then they're not coming in with zero knowledge. Like they're coming in with someone like you who already has all of that, to present to them, right?
That's it. I mean, we've been starting in the beginning of My Blue Bricks, we were just doing this for ourselves. Literally, we were looking for properties like this. And it was just one property because, we didn't have more money. And then we started to talk with other people. They saw what we were doing. And that is how My Blue Bricks has been growing till today. And a lot of people that they like real estate, but they're busy with their own job that they're dealing with on a daily basis. And they should maybe do that because that's the biggest income generator for them, right? And then, because we've been doing this for 10 years already, we've making all the mistakes, and sometimes we still make mistakes, right? Because nobody is perfect, but we know how to manage it. And we also know how to translate then doing a project in Spain, being a bridge between then Spain and the international client, to manage the expectations, which is very important.
Right, because as you said, culturally, there is like that difference from one country to another, right?
There is. Like for example, sometimes doing something or the speed of doing something here in Spain can be a little bit less quick as if you compare it with, the Netherlands. I'm Dutch myself. And so you need to take that into account. Now, I'm not saying that they're not doing the work or they're not doing it at the time that we have been agreeing, but they just have other ways of doing it. For example, here in Spain, sometimes it gets quite warm in the afternoon. We're just now after summer. In the afternoon, you cannot work here. You need to, and some clients were then sometimes visiting our apartments and there was nobody at the building. And we need to explain, hey guys, that is the moment where people take a pause and they continue after. Yeah.
Right, yeah. They wait until it gets a little bit cooler in maybe late afternoon, and then they continue the work because it's crucial here in Spain. That's it. See, siesta, it's real.
The siestas, they still do it, yeah. But I would say the most interesting thing about a property like this is, so for a property developer or for everyone who's looking to have an apartment, normally you look at 2 things, right? You look at how you buy, right? And how you can rent it out. And then after how you can sell it for a specific price. These properties are interesting because normally these are huge renovations. Again, you will see it in the photos and the videos. So with these projects, we are making sure that our clients from the beginning, they can rent it out on a good rate. So there's a good rental yield and there's a value appreciation. So they don't need to wait until a long time before they can rent it out or before the value is increasing. And that is a golden combination that we work with a lot, and so you need to work a lot in finding these properties, because a lot of times they're so scary in the beginning that you couldn't even imagine how it could become now, and that's what we're always doing.
Right. And so is it hard to get that tourist license? You mentioned that these properties have tourist license, and all of your properties have that, right?
Yeah, so it is hard, and it is getting harder. So everyone is probably reading the news articles about Spain, about that it's a little bit a tense, or it has been a tense topic. We already notice now that it's a little bit cooling down, because we also need to have in mind that the gross domestic product of Spain, the biggest industry is tourism, and they know that. They need to, so it needs to become kind of again a balance, and we see that also happening. But it is hard. So it is based on density. So the more licenses being given, the more hard it gets after.
I see. Yeah. But then, so for example, what would make it easier for someone to get a tourist license? For example, because this property is on the ground floor, does that mean that the government will be more open to giving you a tourist license? Are there marks that you need to hit, right?
That's it. So before, literally, you could just go to the city hall and say, hey, can I get a tourist license for my property? You will get it. And one is just a paper, because in the end it is a paper. What they now do, and it's very understandable, is that they want to group properties that have a tourist license together, so that there's not a lot of conflict with the local community.
I see.
And that is, I can understand it really a lot, because imagine if you are living in a building and there's stairways, and then on both sides you have a tourist property and a normal rental property. Sometimes there's just a lot of movement in the tourist property, and that can create some friction. So that is what they now want to avoid. So they have been giving licenses on properties, like that's why you're also buying in bulk. You need to request a tourist license for the whole floor.
I see.
For the whole floor or for a whole building. So that, you really just get together. And so also with all the ground floors that we have here, the entrance is at the street, directly at the street. Instead of it, you need to enter the staircase. So that is then their way of grouping that all together and still make it kind of a livable, convenient, livable situation for both.
I see that. So like, for example, us, we live in a building where there's no Airbnbs or, touristic apartments. So all the people that are coming up and down are just our neighbors. So if there's someone who's not supposed to be there, we kind of recognize like, hey, what are you doing here? But I can imagine that being harder for someone if they're sharing a staircase or like a shared entrance with someone with a touristic apartment where they just go, people are in and out all the time, right?
That's it.
And the security would be more of an issue, I guess, like if people leave the door open and, all of that.
That's it. So this is the way how to cope with it. And this is also how they've been doing it. Now it is getting more harder also here in Valencia to still get them. So all the licenses that we now have on the properties have been requested and granted before there's a temporary block, so we cannot do it at this moment anymore. So we need to go outside of Valencia or look for other ways of doing projects. What we're also now doing a lot with co-living, by the way. So then you rent out in a temporary, so that's a month per month basis. So it's getting more difficult. So all the properties that we now still have, so all the properties that we will also hand over to you, perhaps to have a look at with your community, they still have them because we've been requesting them before. And they're now getting finalized, so they still have tourist license. So that makes them unique. And that's the way, so that's why, and after we will need to have a look for other ways of doing it.
Yeah, and I found it also very interesting that the layout of the apartment I can't remember the first apartment that we saw, which was the Miguel Paredes. Yeah, the Miguel Paredes one. They had separate entrances. They were totally not disrupting whatever was above them, right? And they all had different layouts. So I thought that was very interesting that they weren't cookie cutter, like they weren't just like regular rows and rows like that. So
yeah. And so there's a lot of, I would say, fear in the local community because of most likely everyone has been reading news articles about tourism, right? And they have been trying to present it in a way that is something bad. But just one thing, if I'm going to a different city, which I'm doing the whole time, I'm just using a tourist property with a lot of respect. And by the way, I'm also staying in our own properties here. And so there's nothing to do with the fear that they've been trying to create. So a lot of times when we're then done and the properties are just being rented out to tourism or to tourists, you see that the local community actually is thinking, it's not that bad. It's actually quite nice. It's insane because we have been having quite some things around that, and then they are getting rented the properties, and then the local community is actually saying, hey, the tourism is actually not that bad, and we like how these people are living here, because these are people with small kids. They're going to the local bakery, to the local bar. They treat them with a lot of respect, because literally a lot of tourism that come here, that they want to know a little bit about the Spanish culture, how they are. So they talk with them, how's the neighborhood, and they also make the neighborhood come up, come alive again. So, and that is a beautiful thing, because then that will in the end also, I think, be the strongest, that it will just find a new balance again after that people live well together.
And I think it's also important, and I want, during the tour, I asked Elena, one of the architects, and I told her, like, well, so do you have to ask permission from the ones above, the living above, if you can have these apartments? And she said, yes, you have to give them a presentation. So these people, this is not against their will. These residents, they actually said yes to having these tourist apartments downstairs. And I think that's very important, that we're debunking, like, that these tourist apartments are just sprouting up like mushrooms, like a Starbucks. No. So the people, the residents, are not bothered by them. They are actually okay with having these apartments down below. And I think it makes the building look prettier too, like the way they're set up.
Well, also I like that when you guys present and they see how it's being built, like the quality that you guys are doing, it's raising the value of the building, I'm pretty sure, right?
And it's also in their advantage.
Right. Yeah, and they're really not bothering anyone. The entrances are completely separate. It's as if it's in a different building. They're just on top of you guys, right?
Yeah. And also, we're now at the ground floor, but also for all the people. So sometimes there are some doubts about the ground floor apartments, but so I've also been able to get some of the apartments. I've been living in them myself to really get the idea how it is to live on the ground floor, and also how it is to live next to the street. And it's super, super convenient. It is, you sometimes don't even notice it's on the ground floor. And it's actually easy, because if I go out for a run, I just go out the apartment and I'm already outside. So and it is true, because we are literally making something out of nothing, because this was nothing before, and that's in everyone's favor.
I agree. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's really important that we address that, because you hear something different on the news, like how everything is anti-tourist, but really it's not. There's a lot of good tourism that is coming and needed here in Spain.
Yeah, and so then for us, what we're trying to do always is to make things, or to be creative with the opportunities that are given to us, right? So we're looking a lot at these ground floors, and what we're now also doing, if we're going to new developments, so we're going to do whole new buildings, and we're always trying to find opportunities that make sense for us as a developer, but especially also for the client, that they can just step in and rent out or keep the properties for themselves. Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm curious about this process of, I don't know if you've already talked about it, but I'm curious about like how you select these properties, like these areas that you, like what's your process when it comes to selecting these places? Because I remember we went to 3 areas and they're all so different from each other.
Yeah. So when we do a project, the most important is that we look at where we see potential in the upcoming time. We go to normally the neighborhoods where the square meter price is not that high yet if you compare it with other parts of the city, but at the same time we see potential in the upcoming time that the neighborhood will come up. It's already in a good level, so if you then buy a property like this, it's already in a good state. But we also, for example, where we are now, for the people perhaps that are listening to this, we're close to, it's in a neighborhood close to the beach. It's called Ayora. And so this whole area is going to get better in the upcoming time. But we were already able to buy this before. So then the square meter price was not that high, and we know it's already a good level, but the value of the property will only increase. So that's a very important one. And then of course also the price, how we can negotiate the price of buying it. Because we have very clear criteria, because the buying price that we step in is also going to define the price that that we can sell it for, or that the clients that are then helping us to buy the project, that they can sell it for, like this apartment. And then we find a good balance into that. We have our own contractors team. We have the architect team as part of our office, so we have that in-house. And then all that together, kind of, we make it, like a very convenient product based on the needs also of the client. So this is a property that is going to be rented out, but we're also working on some townhouses outside of Valencia that are going to be second or first homes. Right. So it also depends on the decision that you make for qualities or the materials that you use, and so we're always trying to make it work in that way. And we're just analyzing the market the whole time. The whole time we're out there in the streets, we're looking at 𝗬𝗏𝗍, which is the platform that they use here a lot in Spain, and especially we're doing more projects. You're working on your network that also people start to contact you with the off-market deals, which are the best.
Right, so now there are people who are like, oh, I have this. Before they even go on 𝗬𝗏𝗍, they can contact you and say, hey, are you interested in this property? It's located here.
That's it. Yeah, they start to get to know us. So sometimes we had a project that we were working on, and then somebody across the street with a very bad old kind of commercial space, which had leaks, was in a very bad state. He just saw it and I said, hey, you are doing that one. Are you maybe interested in this one as well? We were like, well yes, because it was just here around the corner. And we could buy it at a lower price. Again, we could also make it then more affordable for the people that are entering, our clients. So yeah, these are normally the hidden diamonds out there.
Very cool. Yeah. So and I think so. What other categories are you looking for? Does it have to be close to like a metro station or a bus station? What would check your boxes, for example?
I mean, the closer to public transportation is always very good. I would say it's a second tier KPI or metric that we look at. The first are square meter price, the neighborhood, and then we look at how well it is connected. But kind of if the project makes sense, then even if it would not be completely well connected, we will still go for it, because it's all based on the price that we can also, because the price that you buy it for is also the price or the yield that you can rent it out for. For the people that are listening, the rental yield is that you have the monthly rentals, you do times 12, so it's the yearly rental, and you divide it by the project price. So let's say you rent out a property for 1,000 per month, 12,000 per year, and you have been spending 100K to buy the property and everything included, you have 12% of gross yield, and you still need to then deduct all other expenses. But so what we normally try to do is to offer our clients at least 10% of gross yield, because that is for us a metric that is very important, and we know that it also makes sure that you have some nice money in the end also in your pocket after all costs. So if we hit these numbers, that is normally already the go to kind of go for it. And then of course it's better also location. So what we normally do is we just look just outside of the city center, close to public transportation, also to the beach here. These are all pluses.
Yes.
But whatever we get our hands on, as bad it can get, we just go for it. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the future trends. So because you're saying that you outside of the city center, right? So how long do you feel like it's going to take until it gets to the point where it's not really outside anymore? Like the city has expanded towards those areas.
So Valencia is expanding, or is getting better a lot. Valencia is the third biggest city of Spain after Barcelona and Madrid, which are the two real motors of the country. And where the most business is being done is actually Madrid. However, Valencia is like a small brother or sister. So you have Valencia and Malaga, which are the two upcoming cities that everyone is talking about. And why? Because here the square meter price in a Valencia is half of what you need to pay for Madrid and Barcelona. So meaning you will pay half for this property, or you'll pay double for this property in Barcelona, for example, or Madrid. So, but you see that changing because people are also starting to get to know Valencia. It's a very international city. It's very attracting also it's kind of Barcelona, but then in a smaller version, a little bit less chaotic. A lot of Dutch people, you see a lot of people with the bike doing the bike tours. And you see that that is expanding quite a lot. Also what Valencia is about is that they're investing a lot in public kind of parks and stuff like that. You have the 𝗬𝗫𝗬𝗬𝗫 Park, which is the river park here in the city, which is very, very beautiful. When you are here and you drive through the park, and at one point it just stops very abruptly, and you need to go out, and then you need to go via some other streets to get to the beach, right? Now the next step is that they will extend it all the way to the harbor, and then you can either go to the beach right directly there, or you can go to the harbor where they're building also really new neighborhood. So that is just having a huge impact also on the people wanting to live here, and Valencia will also get more popular in that way. Now new trends, I would say, Valencia as a city is expanding, is getting better, is attracting a lot more businesses, a lot more tourism as well. What we see is that tourist properties are normally the way how to get the highest yield. Again, the rental yield is very important for us. But there's also some other strategies that we are going to look at in the upcoming time. So for example, we will then have a look at developing whole new buildings or townhouses outside of the city or in the city. And we're going to look at the midterm rentals, which is then for 1 month that you can rent out properties. And that is for a lot of digital nomads, students. So these are, for example, the tourists. You see it a lot of times happening. The tourists coming over, they like it a lot in Valencia, a lot. And they think like, okay, I need to come back. I need to perhaps now do some working from a distance or do students or an internship here. And that is happening also a lot.
I see.
And we want to focus on that. And that is called co-living.
Oh, wow. Okay. So co-living, you have that in Barcelona, is that correct? Or called Enter Co-living, right? And is that something that is happening here in Valencia already? Like, are there co-living spaces here?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, so it's super interesting because the new way of living, and it's also what we're trying to do a lot of times, there's limited space everywhere, right? And the city is just, you cannot, at one point you can build higher, but you have a specific height of that every building can have, because they want to maintain the kind of the characteristic feeling of what Spanish cities can offer. So you cannot build even higher. At one point you need to expand. So Valencia will expand as a trend. But what you also see is that people start to live smaller. So everyone wants to have their own property, but they maybe cannot buy a big property, but they can buy a smaller property. And all these people then want to also live more in a common, with a lot of common zones where you have people where you can get together, where there's a big open kitchen as well, there are activities going on. And that has been happening a lot because digital nomads are working like that. They're working from a distance wherever in the world, like you guys are also doing, right? And you see that happening, and that has been happening a lot in other cities, also here in Valencia. But so you will have big buildings which are then bringing together all these digital nomads and midterm co-living people.
I see. So for co-living, what would be their situation in terms of like living situation? Will they have a room? Is it almost like a hotel where they have a room and then a bathroom, and then everything else, like the common areas, would be like a living room or the kitchen you mentioned, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be like that. So the only thing, it's like a hotel room, a little bit bigger, with also a private kitchen. So you have your bathroom, you have your private kitchen, small, compact, and you have kind of a small living area, you have the bed, sometimes also a bed that you can then fold. And so you have your private space. There's normally around 30 to 40 square meters. And then you have a lot of common spaces where a lot of activities are, like language courses, like social events, like painting, whatsoever. And that is it. So you can, if you combine when you want to be with people and connect with other entrepreneurs, with international people, or you can be at your own place whenever you want. Yeah, that's the idea.
So it's actually quite interesting because you mentioned that for co-living, the space is around, you said 40 square meters? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me paint you a story. In the Philippines, they sell condominiums with a studio unit as small as about 22 square meters. Some even 18 square meters.
I remember seeing 18 and it had a double bunk bed.
Yes, yeah. So I think that even at 40, it is like the quality of life is still there. So I think I think it's great, like even seeing here that there's a lot of open space, even though this is considered, I guess, a studio loft, because there's a lot, but it's not cramped.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
What are your barrios that you're looking at right now inside the city, and then can you talk about outside the city also?
I would say, well, it depends. It depends on what your kind of your living criteria are. Because if you're at one point a lot of people living here in the center, at one point having a kid or wanting to raise a family, then outside of the city is also good. And then you have some other surrounding cities. Inside the city, it's so if you know Valencia, and if you don't know Valencia, have a look at Google Maps. You will see that you have the old city center, which is very land inwards, and then you have the beach kind of separated there. And do you guys know why they've been doing that before? Why that is, kind of that setup of the city?
No, actually I don't.
So, because one of the partners is Catalan, actually, is also Spanish, and he's been explaining. So this is happening with a lot of cities here in Spain, is that cities, the centers have been kind of created land inwards, because before there was a lot of risk from the pirates coming. So they wanted to be more secured inside, and also have, of course, in Valencia you still see a lot of times the fortresses, right? You see parts. So the beach was kind of an unwanted area because there was a lot of risks. Now, of course, now that is changing completely, right?
There.
And again, so Valencia is the smaller brother sister from Barcelona, because it has been happening exactly the same. Now everyone wants to and is living in the beach side. The only thing is, in Barcelona you had the Olympic Games in 92 or 90, which has been a very economic impulse with a lot of investments, making that part to live very convenient. That hasn't been happening in Valencia. So all big events, so for example, you had here the America Cup happening. Now they also organized last year in Barcelona. But so kind of that Valencia is so interesting because you see it just developing. You see also at one point that the most popular neighborhoods in Valencia, you have the city center, right? And you have Ruzafa.
Yes.
Ruzafa is most likely the most popular, convenient, where people kind of know you live, so it's nice. You have a lot of small
really
specialty coffee shops and stuff. There's a lot, it's vibrant, kind of. So you have also Eixample and some neighborhoods there. However, of course, you have the whole side towards the beach. So you have 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and you have this area, which is kind of, you walk and you see also that there's different kind of people. It's not that cool as in the city center. But then also with the Turia Park that they're going to extend towards the beach, this place, and also 𝗏𝗏𝗏, because if you walk through 𝗏𝗏𝗏, sometimes you think like, it's not that good, right? But that is exactly why we are buying a place like this, because that is going to be the future in the upcoming time. The only thing is, it needs a huge economic impulse. When it's going to happen or how it's going to happen, we don't know, but that is going to be a very wanted area at one point. So I would say, yes, city center, but then also focus on this area, so it's Ayora, but also focus on 𝗏𝗏𝗏, although it's sometimes a little bit scary still and risky as what it now could look like. We've been talking with some players in the market and they're focusing on there because the movement is coming this way.
Yeah, it really blows our minds, like coming from the US and living in the Philippines. This is the only place where beach property is cheaper than the city center property. Like coming from California, the $1 million houses are by the ocean, and here it's like half the price of the inside. So I was telling her, like, it's only going to be a matter of time until people, at least the new people who come, will discover that, hey,
I want the house by the beach. Yeah, exactly.
You need to have a long breath, but it's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming. Yeah. So again, I mean, it needs to have a huge investment to make it come alive. Because, I don't know, you have lots of parking spaces where nothing is happening.
Nothing is happening, yeah.
But it's coming. And so also this area is interesting because this is still kind of the neighborhood before you get to the beach. Also, this is still well connected. Although maybe it doesn't seem that relevant right now, this is going to be, you'll see and you already see the specialty coffee shops coming up here or popping up, so.
Okay, so my next question is, a lot of people have been asking us online about OKUPAS and how the properties, like the developers deal with it, or the people who buy their homes deal with it? Because right now it's just like you read articles and they say different things. So have you ever had any encounters with OKUPAS, or how do you deal with that?
So yes, I've encountered squatters in an apartment. However, it's very little in all the 10 years. Actually, just once. So there's quite some articles about OKUPAS or the squatters. And to be fair, occupied buildings that are being presented are just another opportunity for us to do something for a project, because you can buy cheap. The only thing is you have a risk that you need to get them out. But literally, squatters or OKUPAS here in Spain, it's a business. Literally, it's a business. They occupy a building and they want to have money in return to go out.
So they are willing to get out for the right price.
For the right price. Now, not in all situations, because you have some, buildings at the key locations where it's not only economic thing, but it's also more like a symbolic thing of the movement that they're doing. So sometimes you are not unable to get them out, and you need to kind of do it with a law case. But normally it's a transaction. Literally, people actually, our colleagues, other people that are doing projects, they are looking for these type of projects, because they know if they talk with them, you have OKUPAS, and you have literally here in Spain they call companies, known companies, 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗧𝗧.
Yes.
Literally, and these are very muscled people, and then you go to a property and then you start negotiating. Okay, what do you want to go out? Depending on how much or how wanted that property or building is. Of course, with a whole building you will need to pay more, but it's a transaction. It's a gang. It's a gang that is doing that the whole time. Now, are we scared of OKUPAS, or do we ever, or do we, how do we deal with OKUPAS? It's literally, if you know how to deal with them. No, we are not facing that much OKUPAS, to be honest, because the only moment where you need to watch out a little bit is then when you, for example, you have been doing a project and you're done and it's empty for some time. Now, for example, this project could be, it's now empty and it's now being sold, right? So now we need to have a look that there's an alarm, that people are checking it, and that there's just constant movement. If you maintain that, there will not be that much danger. Of course, you also need to make sure that you have a good log and that everything is just controlled. But if you make sure that when a project is done and you have a project manager, that is normally us, or then after you have immediately a property manager, that is the person who's renting it out for you, right? So it's, maybe we haven't been talking about that for that much, is that kind of this whole process that you've been seeing is being done for a client that literally has been here once. He has not been doing anything. So this project is literally a hands-off project for him, that he's been literally saying, look, he's been seeing the presentation, I want to have this, and he's been just saying, okay, I want to have perhaps what we have been doing is that he's been opening the ceiling there, because normally it was the ceiling, we cut it off at one point, but he wanted, because there's a very high ceiling here, and he's been that is most likely the only thing that he's been deciding. And then, so what I want to say with it is that he hasn't been doing, or he didn't need to do anything with the whole process, even up till the point that we're done, because then we are also being able to contact him or connecting with a property manager to take over the rentals. And there's where this point is kind of interesting of the OKUPAS, because when you're then done, or you make sure you sell it as soon as possible, and this property will be sold very soon because it's so nice, and we control the whole time. We have visits, we make sure what's happening. So that's then how we avoid it. Or you rent it out immediately with a property manager, and then you have people going in, going out. And when you maintain that, then literally we in my 10 years, only once in Barcelona, and that was just a coincidence because they were already occupying an apartment in the building, and they went in, they wanted to have money, and the next week they were out. So yeah, I hope kind of that gives a different perspective of the OKUPA thing, right? The huge thing in the articles that...
Very scary to read, yeah.
Is it better to go through a developer than just you buying a house and then trying to kick out the OKUPA?
We've been doing this for 10 years and we have been having so many problems. It's not just OKUPAS, but I think that the biggest problem or the biggest issue that a lot of people have is again then knowing the language and knowing the culture, because that has an impact on every phase. And the big phase of doing a project like this is the renovation. There's so many things that you need to think of, and we have a professional team that is looking at how we renovate the whole time based on the materials, based on how structural, based on the timings, everything is documented. So a lot of people that are then reaching out to us that haven't been doing real estate at all, I would for sure not advise to do. You can buy a property. I wouldn't say you always need a project manager, because if you then buy a property which is kind of already done, or you need to change the bathroom, maybe you could do it. But even sometimes, you know, people that have been doing real estate in the Philippines or in the US or Netherlands or the UK, if you have been doing it there, it doesn't mean that you know how to do it in Spain. Literally, it's the same as for me. If I know it here, but it's not that I now know how to do it in the Netherlands, because it's just a different market. So do you need a project manager? Always, I would say no. But especially if it's going to be more like a bigger renovation project, I would say yes, or at least do it the first time, because that is what we do a lot of times as well. We do it the first time, we show them more or less what we're doing, not all the details because it's too difficult and too boring. But maybe, you know, you do it once with us, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, and then you can do it yourself. That is normally how it works with a lot of people that we talk with.
Can we talk a little bit about that culture again one more time? So Spain has a bargaining culture, correct? Right, which not a lot of Americans are probably used to.
Yeah, not a lot of people know that.
So this is a bargaining culture where this is the price, and it is not offensive for you to offer a lower price or to like, hey, like this is my price, and then meet somewhere in the middle, right?
You don't do that in the US?
Not right now, I don't think so.
Well, we're from California, so usually when you set a price, someone comes in with a bigger price.
Over a bit.
Yeah. And it's automatic. They don't even try to like match it. No, they add more.
Add 5,000, 10,000, something like that, yeah.
So that is not happening here in Spain. So it's normally, I would say, the rule of thumb, it's between 10 and 5% that you can underbid the price that is being asked on the platforms.
Is it the same for renting, for example? Like if the rental price is like 1,800 or something like that, and then you can say, oh, I want it at 1,600.
You could. With rentals, it's a little bit less, because that is just the price and it's the price. It depends on how much demand there is and how much, kind of, what is your negotiation position. You could still. You could still.
Yeah, it's still like, and that's culturally acceptable, right? Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, it's normal. It's a normal thing to do. Yeah, so sometimes even people bid way below the asking price. There was also once on this property that they were offering, I think 30 or 25% below the listing price, and then it's a no, because we already see as well that we cannot negotiate or bring it to a point that could be acceptable. Now, for other people that are doing a project like this, then you also need to take that into account with how you are pricing your unit, right? Because you also want to end up at a price that kind of makes sense, to have a return on investment that kind of is then doable for you. But yeah, no, so it's underbidding, it's normal here in Spain.
Yeah, so taking that into consideration when you do your business.
Exactly.
Yeah. So on the tourist side, what would they need to look for if they're looking for a touristic apartment? Because things are just popping up even on booking.com, hotels.com, there are apartments. I mean, you're looking for a hotel and apartments pop up. So what would be your must-haves as a tourist that they should look for?
Yeah, so first, maybe two-folded. Look if it's a legal tourist property, and after the decoration or how it looks like. So maybe starting with the first is that, again, going back to the tourist license topic, is that it's getting more difficult to get the tourist licenses. At this moment, it's not possible to get them still. So with that movement, there's also another movement that they're inspecting more the market, because there has been a lot of apartments that are just being rented without having the tourist license. That was very normal before, and it was not really controlled, but now with this new movement, they will be on top of everything. So you need to watch out, because also as a tourist being in, and we have been hearing some stories that as a tourist, you just rent an apartment on wherever, and you're just staying there, and all of a sudden there are inspectors wanting to control the apartment, and you're inside of there. And then, although you are not the one to blame, but your vacation is being kind of influenced by that as well. So check if there's a legal tourist license, so that to make sure that everything what we are doing, all the licenses are being requested. So, but there were like around 11,000 tourist apartments, and it was kind of 5,000 apartments that were all illegally renting out on the rental platforms per day. So that is then important to have in mind. Make sure that is always covered.
When we were doing the tour here with Elena, we saw that something that was very thoughtful, which is like how wide the doors are everywhere in the bathrooms. Like there's a wheelchair can pass through, and we noticed that in the kitchen as well, where if you are in a wheelchair, that you can still cook on top of that stovetop. Like that part is empty for them to wheel in. So what made you decide to add those touches into your projects?
Yeah, so we need to do it. So with tourist properties, it needs to be accessible for people with a wheelchair. That's a given. So they will not give you the license if you don't do that. In residential properties, that's not the case. So if you rent it out to tourists, also people with a wheelchair need to be able to cook or to clean their hands, stuff like that. And also it also has to do with the width of the doors, which is a little bit wider. So perhaps if, at one point we will show you some other projects which are residential, you will see that the doors are a little bit smaller. It has everything to do with the accessibility of a tourist property.
So I guess that's one way for people who are not sure if the tourist license is legit or not, is to see how wide the doors are. And if everything is like wheelchair accessible, yep, that's a real one.
Yeah. No, we do everything via the rules. So you have also other people that don't, but that is the way to do it.
That's one way to take a look, right?
Yeah.
For people who have some savings but maybe cannot afford to buy this in cash, can anyone get a mortgage to buy a property here in Spain, or do they have to be Spaniards?
Yeah, so there are some other countries where it is more difficult for foreigners to get banking finance or a mortgage. Here in Spain, it's actually quite accessible for people living here or being a resident here, and for people outside. So there's a difference between foreigners and residents. In Spain, for example, if we would buy as resident a residential property, we could get around 80% of LTV, or that means 80% as a mortgage from the total amount that we're buying a property for. So let's say again, if that will be 100K, you will get 80K from the bank as a finance. Now, if you're not a resident, that's 70%, so that would mean 70K. And there's a difference with tourist properties, because normally they would be able to finance tourist properties for 50 to 60%.
I see.
But then again, you can get financing or mortgage as easy. You will need to do checks. They will do a background check, and you will need to give extra documents if you're not from Spain. But you can get financing as easy as people from here. What is interesting with a lot of people that we're talking with is that the mortgage rates are a lot lower than in other countries. So here at this moment, this is now the end of 2025, it's around 2%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Right, so I don't know what you guys are used to in the US, but what I've been hearing is at least 6%, and if it's an investment property, it could go up to 8% or stuff like that.
Wow, yeah.
So that is a huge kind of your monthly cash flow, which you will end up in your pocket. That's it eats away a lot of your rental income. Now, if you then also compare that with kind of the attractability, so that the 2%, that's possible for us, but it's also possible for international people, for foreigners. So, and I think that the rate or the expense for loaning or lending, getting money from the bank is just very cheap. So with that money, you can then buy a property, use the cash that you have. And again, let's go back. This property is listed for almost 300K. Well, you have some other properties for 150K. So for most people living in other countries, Filipinas, I don't know exactly, but in the US and the UK, these prices are very low. And so, but even if you then talk about 300K and you can finance more than half, you even need less money. If you manage to do the checks at the banks that they will give you the money, you need less money to buy a property. And that is a very interesting thing about Spain, because it's for a lot of other people from other countries, it's in terms of how much capital is needed, it's well manageable kind of.
Yeah, and I really, what really got Paul and I interested in you guys was the price points of a lot of these projects. We basically could not believe it. We could not believe that price still exists in Valencia. So, because of the demand and what we always hear on the news or read on the news is that, oh, the prices are going crazy and all that. So that's also very scary, kind of like the whole OKUPAS situation. And you hear and read all of these things, but it's nice to actually see something and be in one. Yeah, that's still reasonably priced.
And that has to do with your question before. Why do we do bigger projects? Because we know the bigger we buy, the more units we can create, the lower the price per unit is.
Right, and I see that actually. Yeah.
Right, and then even the next step is that if you can then apply the right rental strategy, you can also make it more attractive as an investment or as a project, right? Because then the lower the price that you need to buy, but you can then still rent it out, especially with these tourist properties for a good amount, the more is the cash flow that you can earn every month. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, the rental yield. So what we said before, we look for around 10% as a guideline. Could also be a little bit less sometimes with residential properties that you rent out for a long time, but at least for tourist properties, at least 10% gross. But these properties normally you will be able to get around 15% gross, and then with all the other costs that are taking off, that is around 8 or 9% then net. So don't kind of take that as a granted for every project, because it depends on the purchase price. And then if you translate it back towards how much you can earn with it, then you can earn in euros, you can earn easily between 7 to sometimes 1,000 plus per month net after all costs that you can put in your pocket with an investment or these properties that we're talking about. Now, if you want to do a project like this, for example, the client that has been doing this project has been buying it and now selling it. Now, then we're talking about a return on investment. That is also always depending on how much he has been paying for the project and how much he's able to sell it for, right? But what normally we see, especially what we have been doing with the clients before, they are earning at least 15 to 20%, and sometimes even way higher than that, based on, well, again, how much we can purchase the project for. So that's what you need to have in mind, kind of.
So for example, this property right here, if I were to rent it out per day, what would be the amount per day? Or maybe per month? Is this something that can be rented per month?
You can also do this per month. I would say to rent it out per day. I would think a property like this. So that's also interesting, because if you rent it out per day to tourists, you need to have a lot of sleeping places, right? The more sleeping places, the more you can rent it out to. So you have here potential sleeping place, but you also have a potential sleeping place there. Maybe you need to then block it off with curtains, or maybe with a glass wall. But I think you can rent out a place like this for at least 150, maybe one point higher, between 150 and 200 per night. Do that times then, well, you have 30 days, let's say an average, 70%, then, well, we need to make the numbers. Maybe we can share that afterwards a little. We have a brochure about this property and how much you can earn with it. We can share it with you.
That would be a minimum average rental price in Valencia, for example, for 4 people living in an Airbnb for type would be about 150 a night.
Yeah. So I'm owning 2 studios, which are compact, which are, 35 square meters. Without the second floor, I'm renting it out for around 95 per night with 70-80% occupancy. And so this place will be rented out quite a lot more. Yeah.
Because of the space.
Because of the space, yeah. Because you can also be here, for example, 2 couples at one point.
Right.
Or share for more
family or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also the kind of the advantage of doing this comparing with a hotel. Because in a hotel you cannot cook. No. You cannot come together, you cannot, I don't know, have a nice family session and stuff like that, right? And you can do it in an apartment like this.
And I like that it's pretty secure, because one of the reasons why we prefer hotels is because of the security. But
yeah, we had some doubts about then the kind of the security and what's it called, like the entrance thing.
With it being glass and all, yeah.
Yeah, I mean just the entrance, the outside entrance, because I was thinking maybe we'll block a little bit the light coming in, but that is not happening at all. And so yeah, so it's been kind of working out quite well in the end.
Yeah, and for us as well too, because like in the Philippines, we're used to gates. We're used to having that, even if it's just a psychological level of security. I mean, it is. It makes it more secure. Like, but visually, but visually, like it just stops people, right? So I think that it's a nice touch. I like it.
No, it's been turning out quite well. Yeah, we're happy with the project.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel and clicking the notification bell. Shout out to our subscribers for always being awesome. Thanks to the people who support our channel by subscribing, commenting, giving us super thanks, and tipping us with our Buy Us a Coffee link. If you want to pick our brains and book a 60-minute consultation, we have a link for that, and we can give our honest opinions about topics that we haven't covered in our videos.
thanks to the people in our Facebook group for being awesome members, for generously helping each other. Whenever we view apartments, not like rental not like these apartments, but
When we were looking for rentals before, yes.
our discussion is always like, why is the quality so bad? Like the walls are so thin and the layout is not good. So this is a breath of fresh air, just seeing your designs and the quality of your work.
Well, we're happy with that because we spend a lot of time and effort to make to make it fit with kind of what we hear from the market and put it into action with the properties. And that's what we have been doing here. So especially also the high ceiling just gives. So one of the kind of the positive points of the ground floor properties that they have a high ceiling, because the first floor always have the highest ceiling. And so what we try to do is to maintain it as much as possible, because it gives a feeling of kind of spacious luxury feeling, right?
Right, and also having like these doors almost go all the way up to that ceiling also brings in so much light.
Yes, yeah, because we need to do that, right? Because we're at the ground floor, so you need to do something more to get the light in. Because it's a little bit more difficult to get the light in, but here, yeah, it's been working very, very well.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience and sharing practically all your knowledge about properties, the real estate market here in Valencia and up and coming areas. And I think it's one way for people who are on a non-lucrative visa to do something while they're here, not able to work. Right.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, so again, we've been doing this a lot with international clients because we know that there's a lot of these opportunities out there. The only thing is that you need to know how to do it, and if you don't know how to do it, you need to have the right people also to collaborate with. So and that is what we're trying to do always.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.